Hey everybody! Alright, now I haven't uploaded anything in about 2 weeks, and while we're waiting for more traditional Show with No Name episodes to come out, and they are coming, and they are going to be pretty big too, I figured in the meantime I should upload some stuff so it's not just radio silence and dead air. So I decided to tell a couple stories, and I already knew I wanted to start out with this one. I'm surprised I hadn't told you guys this story before. Not only is it one of the biggest events in my entire life, not just my adult life, in my entire life, it is also the worst car accident I've ever gotten into, and one of the worst times anybody has ever screwed me over. So sit back, relax, and let me tell you guys the story of the car sandwich. It was Thanksgiving of 2015, and there was a date that I told my family that I was going to be heading home, but I wanted to surprise them by coming home a day early. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the route to my house. Like at the very end, like after all the interstate stuff, you get to a point where you have two options. Let's call them Route A and Route B. Route A is like that interstatey, exity type of route that goes right next to the city. It's not through the city, it's next to the city. There are a lot of cars, there are a lot of exits, and I know firsthand from experience that one wrong move could send you about 20 miles in a direction you don't want to go, and you can't turn around. That's a totally different story. At that point, I still didn't feel quite that confident yet to go there. But there's also Route B. Route B is one road. It is a straight shot. Go down that road for a really long time, and eventually you essentially get to my neighborhood. But that one has stop signs, it has shops, it has intersections. It will take longer. But since it was a lot more straightforward, I decided to go down Route B. Now, down Route B, at the beginning of it, there are these weird sort of crosswalks. Normally, crosswalks are at intersections, but these ones are right in the middle of the road. And they have these weird like triangular arrangement of stoplights, and I've never seen them not flashing yellow. Apparently they turn red when somebody presses the button and people have to stop and let the people cross. Now, there was a point where I was driving just down the road, and then I saw that there was this little red car, and it was tiny. It was like one of those boxy smart car type of stuff. Stopped on the crosswalk. It's not even on the line in front of the crosswalk. It's on the crosswalk. I don't remember looking at the actual light itself. I'm going to be charitable to myself and say that if it was red, I would have noticed. But I do remember looking at the crosswalk and seeing that there was nobody there. So then, a split second later, I realized, oh my gosh, this car is not moving. If I don't brake right now, I am going to rear end him. So, well, first of all, that would have been terrible for me, but looking back on it, I realized when you consider how much bigger my car was than his, I don't even want to know what would have happened. So I slam on the brakes. The car is just going to halt. The brakes are making this weird knocking sound, and I'm just braking the entire time. My mind is just in pure panic. After what feels like 30 solid seconds of screeching to a halt, I finally brake. I don't hit the car in front of me. For a heartbeat, everything's fine. And then, I get rear-ended. And the next thing that I'm cognizant of is that little red car just driving away. Now, the next thing I remember is looking to my side and seeing this black car with the front all crumpled up and the driver yelling at me. And I was like, no, my heart just sunk. So then we had to pull into an alley right next to it, and I looked at his car, and I don't know for sure, but I'd say odds are that car was completely totaled. The front was all just crumpled up. So we had to wait for the police to come, because this isn't something you just, hey, exchange information and move on. And eventually I noticed that there is a third guy there, and I had no idea what he was doing there, and I don't remember if I asked or I just put two and two together, but eventually it was brought to my attention that there was a third car involved in the crash. So I look out at the crash site where it happened, and then there is this gray car in the road that is just crumpled up from both ends. This one very clearly is completely totaled, and it's just sitting there. It can't even move. It is completely destroyed. So that's when I realized that there were 3 cars involved in the collision. And I will tell you this for sure. I only felt 1 impact. I didn't feel 2. It was just 1. I don't remember if I heard 2. I don't remember what I saw. I just remember that I definitely only felt 1 collision, which means that there's only really one option as to what happened. I was able to stop in time. The car behind me was able to stop in time. The car behind that person couldn't stop in time. So he rear-ended the car in front behind me. I mean, that car rear-ended me. That's why I call this the car sandwich. And then begins one of the most painful things I've ever done, which is just waiting there. It was like at least an hour, probably like an hour and a half of us waiting for the police to come, get information from all of us, including insurance. And remember this comes up later. The person who was driving the car in the back of the collision told the police that he didn't have his insurance with him. Now, I'm pretty sure that if you don't have your insurance with you in your car, you get a ticket automatically. But whatever. He said it was in his girlfriend's car, which, looking back on it, doesn't make any sense at all, but whatever. So we were all exchanging information. Like, the police gave us all forms, and it was just a very, not only tedious, but also painful and embarrassing process. And I do remember talking to somebody and said, that exact spot has a couple of car crashes a month, which makes me think, okay, maybe this weird in the middle of the street crosswalk isn't really the best idea. But eventually everything just gets settled and we all decide to leave. And my car, all things considered, turned out pretty good. Like, the back bumper is like all torn up. There are holes in it. It's crumpled, but otherwise it's fine. The trunk still works. I can still drive it. Totally fine. I know that the other 2 cars fared a lot worse. So then I have to drive home, and that whole surprise thing I was planning to give my family, not only did I have to surprise my mom, who was the only one home, saying, "Hi, I'm back," but I also got surprised by my mom saying, "I got into a car crash on the way here." So that was not fun at all, but that's not even the kicker. This is the kicker of this story. The guy I learned this from my mom, and she told me that in the law, legally, in a rear-end collision, the person in front is never held accountable. They never have to pay for it. The logic is that even if that car breaks in the middle of the road out of nowhere for no reason, the logic is that the car behind them should always be far enough behind that they should be able to stop or swerve. So the person in the back is the one that's always held accountable in rear-enders by the insurance companies. That means that the back car, the one in the very back, is the one that would have to have been held liable for fixing all 3 cars, paying for all those damages, because the person behind me stopped in time. The person they were totally fine. The person behind them managed to not stop in time and hit the car in front of him hard enough that it hit me, which, again, looking back on it, I realized that there had to have been a little bit of, he should have had time to stop. He either wasn't paying attention or was following way too close. But here is the worst part about the entire thing. The guy in the black car in the back of the collision gave us fake information. He gave us enough fake information that neither I nor the driver of the car in the middle was able to track him down and get our insurance companies to work something out. In legal terms, he essentially committed a hit and run. And in a very indirect, metaphorical way, he kind of stole money from me because I had to end up paying for my own car out of my own pocket. It was $500. It's not, all things, when you consider how much it usually costs to repair a car, and especially after like collisions like that, I'm very lucky. But still, it's $500 that legally I didn't have to pay. He had to pay, but he managed to get out of paying it by just disappearing. None of us could find him. We looked for months, and we got all the insurance involved and stuff like that, but we couldn't find him. So that sucked. So, and there are a few things that I learned from this. One is the very important thing. If you get into rear end and somebody rear ends you, don't be perturbed by them yelling at you saying, "You caused this, You're the worst. Don't feel guilty about it. Even if it was your fault, know that legally they can't get you for it. They can't, and you have to keep that in mind and stand up for yourself when necessary. I wish I had learned all that stuff that my mom taught me about that before it happened, because if I did, I would have treated the entire situation much differently. So yeah, that is the story of the car sandwich. As bad as it was for me, it was pretty bad for me. I know it was exponentially way worse for the one in the middle. He had absolutely no blame in the matter. Like, the red car was sort of at fault for being on the crosswalk for no reason. I was sort of at fault for not stopping sooner, and the guy in the back's the one that caused the collision. The one in the middle was completely blameless, and he is the one who got a totaled, crumpled up, battered car, which sucked. I assumed they had to get a new car, and I believe that the person in the back would have had to have paid the price of that car. But looking back on it, it was one of the worst adulty things that's ever happened to me, and it is also one, by terms of like numbers, probably the worst that anybody has ever screwed me over. The person in the back car. So that was the story of the car sandwich. I'm calling it that because it does have 3, but I feel like another good analogy would be like the car centipede, like the human centipede. Nobody wants to be in one, but all things considered, the person in the front is lucky, and the person in the middle has it the worst. So if anybody else has any car crash stories, let me know in the comments. I want to hear. All right, I'll see you guys later.